Dear students and my dear colleagues, myself Dr. P.K. Verma. Today I shall discuss an introduction to biotechnology. You know that currently it is a very important subject that is used for so many functions needed for the welfare of human being in the field of biology. It is a complex subject that needs a thorough background of biology and also the technical aspects of laboratory equipments and their usage. Any technique through which we can improve utilization of plants, animals, and microbial resources is known as biotechnology. So, when you used to make curd or the alcoholic beverage, it was also a biotechnology. Another most popular definition of biotechnology is the application of scientific and engineering principles to the processing of materials by biological agents to provide goods and services. The European Federation of Biotechnology has given a definition of biotechnology that encompasses both traditional views and the modern molecular biotechnology. According to EFB, the integration of natural science and organisms, cells, parts thereof, and molecular analogues for products and services to mankind is biotechnology. So, you have to develop a technology that may be used in human welfare for the goods and services of the human being, not against the human being. A study of biotechnology needs a thorough study of diversity of life, cell biology, biochemistry, genetics and molecular biology, plants and animal physiology, and immunology, etc. You know that currently not less than 200 laboratories are engaged in developing antibody against coronavirus. All of them are dependent on biotechnology to know the genome sequence of the virus, to develop an antigenic protein and the antibodies against them in the test animals and human beings. It can be applied to food production, nutritional science, crop improvement, and production of chemicals and medicines, correction of genetic diseases, and control of environmental pollution, etc. We use the plants, animals, and microorganisms for human welfare earlier also, but we did not know about the bacteria, viruses, and fungi. Neither we had any knowledge about the genes that regulate expression of characters and functions. Till early 20th century, we used simple hybridization for crop improvement without knowing anything about the genes, and the outcome was uncertain, mostly failure. Out of many experiments, only a few progeny was found successful. But in 20th century, we developed the knowledge of genetics and molecular biology. We made use of them in desired way, that is known as biotechnology. So when we talk about the technology, we mostly mean the genetic engineering and recombinant DNA technology, that is commonly known as RDT. In fact, the biotechnology got rebirth after 1930s. Chaim Weizmann used the bacteria Clostridium acetabutylicum in 1920s for production of butanol and acetone from starch, which was the first rediscovery of biotechnology. It aroused the hope of commercial use of such microorganisms. In 1929, Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin, an antibiotic from the culture of fungus Penicillium notatum. It marked the second rediscovery of biotechnology. You know that it was the first antibiotic and it saved life of thousands of soldiers in the Second World War. Now we have a lot of antibiotics. In 1928, Frederick Griffith discovered transformation reaction, and in 1944, Avery, MacLeod and McCarthy discovered that DNA is genetic material. After that, our work proceeded forward. A structure of DNA and semi-conservative replication were discussed by Watson, Crick and Wilkins in 1953. Conjugation in bacteria was discovered by Lederberg and Tatum in 1946. Life cycle of bacteriophages were discovered by Hershey and Chase, who differentiated the lytic and lysogenic bacteriophages. Transduction in bacteria was discussed by Jindal and Lederberg. So you know that these things are essential for the correct use of biotechnology. Without knowing the life cycle of virus or the conjugation in bacteria, transformation and transduction, you cannot use this technology properly. The genetic code was deciphered with the help of three scientists, Hawley, Nirenberg and Khorana. In fact, Hawley discovered the anticodon in transfer RNA. DNA polymerase enzyme was at first discovered by Kornberg and later on by Kynes and DeLucia in the same year 1969. Operon concept of gene structure and regulation was discovered by Jacob and Monod. They discovered lac operon in Escherichia coli. The restriction endonuclease was discovered by Arbour, Smith and Nathans. Reverse transcriptase enzyme was discovered by Temin and Baltimore, and the polymerase chain reaction was developed by Kary-Mullis in 1983. So these discoveries made the strength of biotechnology by developing knowledge of various aspects of the molecular biology. Scientists could think that we can manipulate the genes in desired way. Now, what is genetic engineering? It is the process of genetic manipulation of characters of an individual by deletion or introduction of a gene or DNA segment. That means if you know that there is some defective character in one individual variety of your crop and there is a good character in another variety, in place of making hybridization, you can cut out the gene, isolate the gene from the second variety and introduce into the first variety so that your desired improvement in crop productivity can be made. It includes identification, that is identification of good and bad genes, isolation of the good genes, synthesis, that is multiplication of the copies of the gene, and the transfer of DNA segment carrying a particular gene or the genes into the organism selected by you. Cohen and Boyer in 1971-72 were the first scientists who introduced an antibiotic resistance gene into the plasmid of Salmonella typhimurium, and the vector plasmid was introduced into Escherichia coli. That is, the gene was taken from one variety and the plasmid was transferred into another variety, another species. Formation of an organism bearing a gene of other species is called transgenic or genetically modified organism. That is, the antibiotic resistance gene belonged to Salmonella typhimurium, but this resistance gene was transferred into another species, Escherichia coli. So the gene from one species was transferred into another species. If such experiment is done on the plants and animals, it will be called transgenic or genetically modified plants or genetically modified organism. Similarly, for animal, it is genetically modified animal. Since then, this science of genetic engineering has put a number of milestones. Now the aim and objective is very clear. It improves crop productivity by developing better genetic vigor and resistance against diseases and parasites. Improvement of farm animals for producing more milk and more meat, and poultry for producing more eggs and more meat. Use of microbiology, the microorganism, in industrial preparation of chemicals like alcohol, acetone, acetic acid, etc. Developing better strain of microorganism for beverage, curd, tea, jute industry, etc. Use of microbial production of antibiotic, hormones, human interferon, and other useful medicinal products. Use of microbiome in biodegradation of natural organic waste as well as synthetic organic waste, that is, its use in environmental biotechnology. Genetic manipulation of plants and animals include man for making them disease-free. There are many genetic diseases in man which are fatal or chronic, and everyone wants to get rid of them. Diabetes, arthritis, asthma, hemophilia, sickle cell anemia, thalassemia, Alzheimer's, SCID, etc. are many such diseases which are because of certain mutation in the human genes. So if these diseased genes are replaced by a normal functioning genes, the genetic diseases can be corrected. Now, for the cutting of DNA, multiplying their copies and introducing them into another individual, there are some molecular tools of biotechnology. Most of them are enzymes or protein factors. The first important enzyme is helicase that changes DNA structure by unwinding during DNA synthesis. Topoisomerase II gyrase changes DNA structure by rewinding during and after synthesis. Single strand binding protein SSBP prevents rewinding of the two DNA strands at replication fork. Primase, it is another enzyme that controls synthesis of a small RNA primer at 3' terminal of DNA. Polymerase II, bacterial. DNA polymerase II is a bacterial enzyme for DNA synthesis, and DNA polymerase I is another bacterial enzyme for editing and repair of complementary DNA strand. It has both endonuclease and polymerase activity. Now, in place of DNA polymerase I and II, Taq polymerase of Thermus aquaticus, a bacteria that lives at high temperature in the thermal springs, is used for DNA replication in vitro. It is widely used in polymerase chain reaction. DNA lyase causes single strand break at supercoils in bacterial DNA, so helps in replication of bacterial DNA. DNA ligase is another enzyme that can be used to attach two DNA molecules together. Restriction endonuclease. It is a very important enzyme that breaks DNA at restricted or a specific site with a specific arrangement of bases. Reverse transcriptase. It is another very important enzyme in biotechnology. Using this enzyme, a single stranded DNA can be made using the template of RNA, mainly the messenger RNA. Alkaline phosphatase. It is used to remove phosphate group from the 5' terminal and leaves a hydroxyl and prevents self-ligation of the two open terminals of vector DNA. One more enzyme is used in biotechnology that is called nucleotide terminal transferase. So you have to read carefully the use and importance of all these enzymes and the protein molecules. Now there are certain mechanical tools, that is the equipments that are essentially used in biotechnology. These tools are ultracentrifugation, density gradient centrifugation, and electrophoresis. What is ultracentrifugation? You know that if you rotate something in a circular fashion, centripetal and centrifugal forces act on the moving body. Centrifugal force tends to fly off the object out of the circular path, but centripetal force maintains it on the circular path. So if some particles are suspended in water or any solvent and their density is more than the density of solvent, then they can settle down in the bottom, form sediment in hours. It depends solely on the molecular weight. The larger molecules form sediment earlier and the smaller molecules need more time. But in spite of hours and days, it is not certain that 100% of these molecules have settled in the sediment. So if you rotate the solution, you will put centrifugal force, that is mv square by r, over the particles suspended in solution. And because of that force, they will move away from center and they will go to the bottom of the test tube and form the sediment. Now, because centrifugal force depends directly on the mass and velocity, mass is constant for a particle and you can change the velocity. So if you increase velocity twice, the force will increase 4 times. If you will increase the velocity 3 times, the force will increase 9 times. Therefore, the force increases by a square of its velocity if the velocity is increased. Centrifugation at high speed above 10,000 rotations per minute is called ultracentrifugation. By ultracentrifugation, even such particles can be sedimented that normally do not form sediment after leaving them for many days also. Now this is the equipment. It is a ultracentrifuge machine. It has power to rotate test tube inside the cavity made in this chamber over the speed more than 10,000, 20,000 and even sometimes 1 lakh rotation per minute. What is the principle? Here is a motor, powerful motor. It rotates the rotor system just like your mixie and grinder. In your mixie and grinder, the velocity is maximum 1600, 1800 or 3000 rotations per minute. But such a small velocity is found in the simplest type of centrifugation machine. I have discussed that this rotation should be more than 10,000 rotations per minute. So the motor system should be very powerful. Again, by rotation, heat is generated and the machine can burn, the coil can be fused, and therefore there is system of cooling them. In the upper part, in the photograph you can see there are electronic and even manual regulators fitted to control the velocity of movement. Now consider this is a mixture containing 3 or 4 types of particles with various molecular weight. So when you will rotate the test tube at moderate speed, 400 or 5000 rotations per minute, the largest particle will come into sediment. You can separate the supernatant. Now in another test tube, when the supernatant is rotated at higher speed, 6000, 7000 or 8000 velocity RPM, the second larger molecule will settle in the bottom. Again you can change the test tube, supernatant is changed, the speed is increased over 10,000. The third largest molecule will be sedimented, and when the speed is further increased, 12,000 to 15,000, the smallest particle also come in sedimentation. So sedimentation depends on the molecular size as well as the speed of the rotating machine, centrifugation machine. And by this way you can separate particles suspended, various particles suspended in a solution. Now the second technique is density gradient centrifugation. In this technique, a density gradient is prepared 0% to 20% or so by using sucrose solution or cesium chloride solution. When mixture of substances are taken into this medium and centrifuged at high speed, what will happen? The substances will move from upside to downside, that is away from the center, due to centrifugal force. And when the particle will reach in the region of same density, they will stop moving. So, if there are 4 different molecular weights of substances, they will acquire 4 different regions in the test tube. And after stopping the movement, you can see them forming various bands. And these can be separated easily using a fine pipette. So, you can write down when the density of suspended particle is same as the density of solvent or suspending medium, it will remain suspended anywhere regardless of the rotational force. Only the particles with higher density will move, not of same density. So, they will remain suspended in solution. In the test tube called centrifugation tube, a density gradient of solution is made using cesium chloride or sucrose from 0 to 20%. And then centrifugation of the mixture of DNA of various length and molecular weight is done in it. What will happen? The larger molecules will move deeper because of the higher centrifugal force. It is directly proportional to molecular weight. DNA molecules with higher weight and density come to lower position. Those of lower molecular weight acquire respective higher position according to their density within an hour of centrifugation and become stable at their positions. These DNA molecules from various points and can be seen under ultraviolet light. They can be separated using fine pipette. Thus, DNA of various chromosomes can be isolated easily. This is the diagrammatic representation. Here, up to 40% density of sucrose is used. Mixture of protein is taken in the apex, and after that it is subjected to centrifugation. Now you can see that different molecules of protein acquire different levels in the test tube. First level, second level, third level, fourth level. So everyone can be separated using a pipette very easily. Now the third technique is electrophoresis. It is a process of separation of charged molecules like proteins, RNA and DNA in an electrical field. RNA and DNA being acidic are negatively charged, and most proteins become negatively charged at alkaline pH. Therefore, electrophoresis is done in alkaline medium in a pH range 8 to 8.5, and these molecules move from cathode to anode in the electrical field. The technique of electrophoresis was developed at first using cellulose acetate paper, but later on different types of gel medium was prepared, so it is now called gel electrophoresis. For isolation of protein, I myself used polyacrylamide gel, and the pH was maintained between 8 to 8.5 using the trisglycine buffer. For isolation of DNA fragment, agarose gel is prepared because polyacrylamide and DNA form a gel mixture. Movement of DNA is prevented because of the non-granular nature of the polyacrylamide gel, whereas the agarose is granular structure having sufficient large pore size through which DNA molecule can move. The gel medium can be taken in a silicated glass tube that will be called dish gel electrophoresis. I myself had did this technique while doing my PhD, or on a glass plate slab gel electrophoresis. It is easier than dish gel electrophoresis and therefore used in most of the laboratories. This is the equipment. It is made of Teflon glass, that is a synthetic material. There are two reservoirs. Buffer is taken in these two reservoirs on a basal plate made of glass or Teflon. Cellulose acetate paper is taken and soaked with the same buffer. Now if charged molecules are taken in the middle and electricity is passed through it, anode in this side and cathode in this side, they will move to opposite poles. That is, anode will attract negatively charged molecules and cathode will attract positively charged molecule. If you will use DNA, RNA or protein, you have to spot the material towards the cathode and it will move from cathode towards anode. So it is paper electrophoresis. This one is the apparatus for dish gel electrophoresis. In glass tubes made of silicon, gel is prepared and allowed to polymerize. After that, the sample is spotted in the upper part, fitted into the system, and the upper pot and lower pot, upper reservoir and lower reservoir are filled with buffer. Cathode is fitted upward and anode downward, so the protein, DNA or RNA will move from cathode to anode. You can see what a beautiful photograph this is. This photograph was taken for the separation of isoenzymes of esterase enzyme. All these bands are the enzyme molecules with their respective densities in the given sample. Now, this pot is made for the slab gel electrophoresis. Gel is spread on the surface of a glass plate. Sample is spotted in one side and fitted into the system. There are so many different type of apparatuses made, vertical or horizontal, and then current is passed from cathode towards anode. The protein, DNA or RNA move in this way on different lengths and they form different bands. By using electrophoresis, we can also determine molecular weight of the protein, DNA or RNA molecules. Now this is the photograph of various samples of proteins. You can see how beautifully different molecules form the band and can be seen under ultraviolet light or after staining. Along with the sample of protein, RNA or DNA, a marker dye, because these molecules are colorless, so a colorful marker dye is used, such as bromophenol blue or bromocresol. It becomes blue in the alkaline medium, and when it runs towards the anode for a distance about 10 centimeter, the electricity is put off. The RNA, DNA and protein molecules are behind this marker band. So you have studied three important aspects. At first, the definition of biotechnology. Secondly, the definition of genetic engineering. Thirdly, the techniques of isolating DNA. And fourthly, about the enzymes and other protein molecules needed for biotechnological experiments. In the latter classes, we shall discuss every aspect separately, and therefore everything will be repeated and discussed in greater details. Thank you. Thank you very much.